the forced front cross is the first handling technique which I try with a young puppy over the jump. Why? Maybe the first reason is that this technique is absolutely natural to the dog, so they react to it naturally. So you can use only the first 6 handling elements without any verbal. The other reason is that in this technique, the dog has to slice the jump, and if they slice the jump, they have to do a lead change. And the sooner they learn it, the easier will be later. The third reason is that when I have a puppy, I try to create a very high obstacle focus. But of course, if the obstacle focus would be 100% high, you cannot handle the dog anymore. So of course you need handler focus as well. And this technique is a very good test if the dog has both and these two things are in balance. So let's see the technique. This is always a backside scent from the dog's perspective. So if the dog is sitting there where the camera is and I'm behind the jump, this is a backside from the dog's perspective, and my position is forcing the dog to the right side of the jump. When you try it with a young dog, you are always like arm lengths away from the jump, and the dog side hand, dog side leg, which is the hand and leg closer to the jump too. So they are in front. You are a little bit closer to the first wing, and so first you are using your position because you are on the right side of the jump, and then you bend a little bit, so you are a little bit lower like this. So your upper body, your chest laser is cueing the right line for the dog, and you can also use your hand. Dogs were hunting animals, so if something is moving on the ground, close to the ground, it's very interesting for them. So they will look like this, and the other reason is that if something is moving, they see it sharper than anything else. So if I'm just like this, very static, or if I shake my hand, they will see it sharper when they see the motion. So I'm like this, I release the dog, I keep myself a little bit low, so my chest laser is cueing the right line. I see that the dog is looking at my hand, coming close, then I do one step backwards, and then I turn and I step towards the second wing, and then I keep going. Any type of technique you train at one jump, always keep your motion, because it can become a bad habit that you stop. So when you start the forced front cross just with one jump, always move, keep your motion after the technique. Dogs always move parallel with us, so this is the dog's line over the jump. That's why I'm stepping towards the second wing. So now my foot is parallel to the dog's intended line. If you turn too much like this, that your legs are parallel to the jump, the dogs won't take it. Maybe experienced dogs, but usually if you just cue the jump like this with your hand, but your feet and upper body turn away, the dog won't take the jump. What can go wrong? So it can happen that the dog takes the front side of the jump. There is at least 2 reasons for it. The first one is that the obstacle focus too high, or the handler is like this too soon. So the dog is seeing you over the jump. If the obstacle focus is too high, then I would take a toy. I would take a toy, keep it in my hand, same position, release the dog, and before the dog gets to the toy, you drop the toy and you finish the technique. So that way you are teaching the dog to keep the line what you mark with your hand, and you teach the dog to keep the commitment to the line, to the obstacle what you are cueing. It can happen that the dog won't take the jump because just too fast, too impatient. In this case, I would use treats, cookie in my hand, and I would start the first step, reward the dog behind the jump, so the dog has to slow down and take the treat, and then I let the dog jump. The other trick is if the dog won't take the jump, that you keep this arm like this, because if your upper body is turning towards the dog, you are cueing the lead change. So sometimes dogs are not impatient, but it's just easier to run instead of doing the lead change. So if your dog is like this, then you can keep the same arm. So your dog is coming, you do one step backwards, but you keep this arm like this, and then you switch to the other arm and keep going. In this technique, the upper body, the chest laser, has a big role. Dogs follow your chest laser. So think about like this, that you have a chest laser, and where this laser pointer points on the ground, dogs want to go there. So this is the reason why we do the force front cross this way. So if I'm using the dog side hand, dog side leg, which means the hand and leg closer to the jump, and I'm bending a little bit like this, my chest laser is cueing the dog's intended line all the time. And that's why I keep myself a little bit like low, close to the ground, because this way the chest laser is cueing the intended line of the dog all the time. If you do the first part like this correctly, and you see that your dog is looking at your hand, but instead of stepping backwards, you are doing like this, then your upper body is cueing the wrong side, and the dog can change her mind. When you go to competitions and you watch other handlers, or you are watching videos, you will see many handlers who are doing this force front cross a different way. So they are using the other arm, which is for me a little bit risky, because if I break my shoulder like this, then my chest laser is like this. But if I'm like this, like normal, my upper body is cueing the wrong side of the jump. So those handlers are teaching a very strong verbal cue, but I don't want to override any natural cue. And the upper body, this chest laser, is a very strong natural cue for the dogs. So if I'm like this, a very young puppy without any teaching will come to me toward the correct side of the jump. But if I try it like this, they will take the front side of the jump because of my upper body. So I want to keep, I want to use the natural cues. And the other thing is that in agility, everything has, let's say two sides. So if you teach a strong verbal, and you can pull in your dog like this, you will lose something. You will lose the backside, because how we cue the backside, we push like this. But so my upper body is now cueing the wrong side of the jump if it's a pull in. So if I do it like this, the backside, and I do the force front cross like this, I don't override any natural for the dog. If I teach the dog to come in like this, my verbal cue is overwriting the natural cue, so I will struggle with the backside. So I have to teach again a strong verbal. So for me and for the dogs, it's just easier to keep the natural cues and keep the balance. So everything in agility has two sides, and you have to look at the big picture and keep the balance, like we said about the obstacle focus and handler focus. Coming in, going to the backside. If you have a nice balance between the two ends of the same thing, then it will be easier to handle your dog. Depending on the course design, you can finish the forced front cross 3 different ways. If the dog's line is just straight, like going this way or turning a little bit, you just turn together with the dog. So you just do the forced front cross like this. If the dog has to turn around the second wing tighter, going this way or this way or this way, so on the takeoff side, the next obstacle is on the takeoff side. You have two choices up to the course design. The first one is that you finish the forced front cross to a front cross. So the first part is the same. You do one step backwards. You you turn a little bit your upper body towards the jump. You look at the landing, and then you finish your front cross, which means that the dog is coming to your right hand in this situation. Dogs always come to the side where you look, so where they see your profile. So életke, útba vagy. So you start like this, one step backwards, turning a little bit, and then finish your front cross and look over your right shoulder. The third option is that you finish the forced front cross to a Yako turn, similar to the front cross, but you will look over the other shoulder. So I show you. The first part is the same. You do one step, you turn a little bit, so your upper body and your eyes cueing the jump, and then you turn away from the dog like this, so you look over your left shoulder and keep going. So this is the three options. Just a forced front cross, you turn together, the dog goes this way, or forced front cross to a front cross, this way, or forced front cross to a Yako turn. Remember that dogs always come to the side where you look. This is just a small detail, but a very important one. Any technique you train, always train both sides, because dogs and people can have a weaker side, and dogs are born like lefty or righty, like human, but dogs are much better than we human, because they can even the difference between the two sides if you train it soon enough. So this is one reason why I want to train both sides. We have a little test for the puppy, so you should know if your puppy was a lefty or righty originally, and then always train the weaker side a little bit more. And the other thing is, people can have a weaker side, so this is a very good advice both for the dogs and for the handlers. Yes, about the speed and the challenge in this technique. When you have a young puppy, you do all the handling techniques first just over one jump, so there is not too much speed. So when you want, if it goes well, on one jump with less speed, then you can leave the dog further away from the jump, or you can have one jump before this one and after this one, and you can play with the distance. So the further away the other jump is, the more speed the dog will have, of course. So if the dog makes 2 mistakes in a row, then you have to change something. You have to do the things easier for the dog. And one thing you can change is the speed, the approach, the speed of the approach. The other thing is you can play a little bit. You can change it, the angle of the approach. So if the dog is sitting there like perpendicular to the jump, 90 degree, it's easier for them to take the jump because of the angle. They have to slow down, they have to collect more, so it's easier to take the jump. And the more you change this angle, so when it's just like this, a soft angle, it means much more speed at the approach. So it can happen that your young puppy won't take the jump. So you can change back the angle, or you can use the same arm to help the lead change, or also you can use garden nets, but we will talk about this later.